Hello, everyone. Is the Prophet Michael David, aka Aries, and I hope everyone's having a great day. Okay, number one, I'm in a really good mood. I know it's been about a week since I last posted, but that's only because I've had maths on the brain really hard, and I've had some breakthroughs, and I came up with the greatest prime number theorem ever. So I'm super happy about it. I'm definitely going to show you guys. How am I going to do that? Spoiler alert. All right, well, I took that equation, which I haven't told you guys what it is yet. I'm not going to tell you to, but I modified it into different lines and graphed those different lines. And I basically turned the prime numbers into a song. So again, very much like my last videos, I'm going to do a slideshow of screenshots like that so that you guys can see the progression. That specific screenshot is magnitude primes from 475,000 to 500,000. So right around, the first 40,000 primes. But after that, I finally have to get to the back to the prophecy stuff. I'm commanded by Gaia, God the Lord, to finally tell you guys basically how I became a prophet. I've alluded to it before in previous videos, but I got to tell you all about the days, day 1 to day 36, and everything that happened to me when I became a prophet. That I'm also commanded to tell you that I'm a prophet at the start of every video, unless it's an exceptional Tupac video. But after that, then I'm gonna show you guys how I came up with my formulas, or at least the one I won't tell you yet. But the one I have now is so much better. It's the most beautiful formula I've ever seen in my life. But to get there, the rest of this video, I'm gonna teach you guys a little bit about prime numbers and the Riemann hypothesis and the prime number theorem and the prime counting function and how they all relate together. All right, so really, what's the game here? The game is to create an algebraic expression that you just type n into and it kicks you out the nth prime. So if you enter 10, it kicks you out the 10th prime. If you enter 15, it kicks you out the 15th prime. If you enter a billion, it kicks you out the billionth prime. Also, you can only use n, the natural numbers. You can't use information from previous primes. Otherwise, you can use these two equations to make it much easier. Both these equations describe both the asymptotic nature of the reciprocals of the primes as well as the reciprocals of the natural numbers. But if you look closely at that second equation, all it's really saying, and it's true, is that the next prime number is roughly equal to the previous prime number plus the ratio of the previous prime number over its corresponding natural number. But again, to a true prime number theorist, this is cheating because you're using information from previous prime numbers to predict future numbers. The real game is come up with an algebraic expression that tracks the prime numbers from 1 or 2, however you want to do it, to infinity. That's the game. So obviously, there are ways to predict or produce prime numbers that have been developed before me. So what are they? Um, the first and most famous is called the sieve of Eratosthenes, and this is it. There are an infinite amount of sieves of Eratosthenes and everything. Look it up if you want to learn about it. It's the most common mathematical technique throughout history for dealing with or try to find the primes, but it's not the only one that's ever been devised. It's brilliant. and it works and it kicks out all the primes. But the reason why it's not famous or nobody knows about it or while it's used by mathematicians these days is because when you actually use it, this is what happens. You can find all the prime numbers in order, but you have to use um, exponentially more power and resources to do so as you go through each prime number, which makes it totally inefficient, which is why nobody uses it. The best way, although nobody knows it yet, is just to use my X numbers and the times tables. And in reality, all you're doing is you're checking about every 13.3% numbers, 1 over 7.5, but you're only checking numbers that have a possibility of being prime. You're ignoring all the others. So what's the end game in this? The end game is to solve the Riemann hypothesis and become the most famous mathematician that's ever walked the earth. And although I do have some ambition for that, I could care less if it's any of you, as long as it gets done. In that light, hence the title of the video, the rest of this video is going to be about teaching about the Riemann hypothesis. What is it? Because a lot of you have heard about the numbers and stuff, and that it pertains to primes. It's the greatest math equation on the planet. No one knows how to solve it, but you don't know the specifics. So here is a very layman's class on the Riemann's hypothesis. Okay, so if you wiki or Google Riemann hypothesis, you always see something like this. So you have heard about the Riemann hypothesis before, maybe, and maybe you even heard about the zeta zeros, but and maybe you've even heard of that in some way they contain the information of the primes, but like no one's ever like explained to you exactly how they do that. And even myself for a time struggled with it back in the day, but recently I found a YouTube video where somebody described the zeta zeros and how they contain the information of the primes better than any YouTube video I've ever seen before. I'll be honest, I don't even know what that guy's name is or who his support staff is. And it's a new YouTube channel. You can see that was the first one. It only came out 3 months ago. But that singular video, if you've ever wondered why, like I've heard of the Riemann zeros, but like, is there any algebraic expression that you can just type those numbers into and get out the prime numbers? No, it's all wave function stuff. But if you want to know an explanation of how you do get prime numbers out of the Riemann zeros, it's the greatest video I've ever seen. And they also have software. I haven't downloaded it myself because I have my own techniques, obviously, but the video is brilliant. Specifically, and I'm only reiterating this point because it's so magical, but about 2/3 the way through the video, he shows how you can use the Riemann zeros with negative cosine functions to construct a Fourier transformation that spikes on all of the prime numbers, including their squares, cubes, etc. And lastly, if you look real closely, you can see that the Riemann zeta function in the Riemann hypothesis contains not only information about the primes, but it has information about the prime powers as well. So prime squared, prime cubed, prime to the fourth power, prime to the fifth power, all of them up to infinity. So at this point in the video, you may be asking yourself, are you claiming that you have solved the Riemann hypothesis? Uh, yes, maybe. What I can tell you is, according to Wiki, these are the bounds on the Riemann hypothesis. Okay, I know that looks complicated, but all that is saying is basically the prime counting function, so the prime's density minus that lie of x, which we'll talk about later, has certain bounds. If the Riemann hypothesis is true, that it has to be within a certain like cone. Think of it that way. What I'm saying is that my discrete equation is well within the bounds of both the Riemann hypothesis bounds and the value of lie itself. Therefore, in kind of layman's terms, if the Riemann hypothesis has bounds within a value that has to be within the primes, and my equation is well within those bounds forever, then by transitive property, I will have solved the Riemann hypothesis. At least that's my argument, without having to find out exactly what those values for the zeta zeros actually are, which I'm also trying to do, obviously. All right, hopefully you guys learned a lot today. I know I have in the past week. I'll be honest, in the next video or two, we got to go back to the God stuff. I eventually have to tell you guys like how I became a prophet. I keep referencing the days over and over, but I got to do that. Tell you guys all the story. Spoiler alert, there's going to be some more profanity than my normal videos in them, but that's just how it goes. And then while I'm doing that, I'm going to keep making my spreadsheets and, hopefully show you guys better and better models or, the best model. Hopefully I'll find the grail if it exists. All right, signing off. As always, rule number 1, do not touch other people without their consent, aka do not hurt each other. And rule number 2, it's all about honesty. Lies are a tick down, aka try not to lie. All right, I'll talk to you all later.